Oh my gosh, I finally had some time. I tried to record the other day and then I had the headphones in and it didn't tape it well. I was driving myself nuts for so many stories, but anyway, some new ones came up and okay, beyond Trump lost again for 83 million, something like that. It's funny. He's just, he's not going to stop. He has literally no shame. He's that guy that you get a restraining order on and he just ignores it a million times and just still does stuff. That's him. He'll keep going on. He's not used to losing, I guess, When he loses, oh boy, it's criminal time. Okay, so this is another story about a gay monster. Another one. And I want to give a note on here that being your sexual preference doesn't determine whether you're going to be this monster or not. Being male, there's a good potential because of the history and historical things about how they teach young boys to be men and the child abuse. And I want to point out the guy is a Generation X guy that was born, that he's not, he's 56 years old. So he's smack dab in the middle of a time period where they promoted rape, did not teach consent, women have no agency, and those things pour over to male on male violence, which at the time they did not really consider men being raped a thing. And so, yada, yada, yada. So that's why you're seeing this. It's actually totally explainable, and it's from their childhood and the time period that they were raised. Okay, further. I'm like further on the story. I actually expect a whole bunch of doctors to get busted because I was going on a whole long list of doctors that I think in our lifetime here had some predatory behavior, which we thought, all of us thought that it was consensual and it wasn't. And there was procedures done that were not supposed to be done that way. And I didn't even know because I'm not educated on what's supposed to happen in an examining room and that people are supposed to be present and yada yada, things like that. And then men making comments about my body weight, um, one of the doctors, and then they made up kind of that I had to go back and didn't explain that how to do the procedure properly. They just used to give generic time period. There's a long story to this, and historically they've been abusive to women in it. And a female doctor actually explained how the medical field is highly misogynist and misogynistic or whatever, and that medicine is really bad even for men, even though they control the whole thing, right? So they didn't have proper tests for men. They would highly focus on women's sexuality, and they would chronically ask me if I had STDs when I'm going in there for an arm injury. It was insane, but that stuff has been going on. um and they continually want to go at my vagina. And I'm just sitting there like, I literally just had a test done. They're like, you need to get one done. I'm like, I just had one done months ago. Yeah, so this was going on. And then they tell me, who told you you had to keep going in for that? I was like, y'all. And they're like, what? Yeah, I go, thank you. So now I'm being told that I was sexually abused. Like, that's a sexual abuse, actually. And I paid for it out of my pocket, which just kills me because I had a over fear that I was going to get like cervical cancer or breast cancer or this thing. And it got really scary when they actually did find something one day. And they had done this multiple times actually in other areas of my body. And then I go in and it's always nothing. Sure, we should always get that stuff checked, but my gosh, when you're chronically told like, you could possibly have cancer, it's like it could happen and eventually one day it's going to be a real thing, because a lot of people are getting it. I mean, I've had so many people bring it up in the recent years here. Even back in my childhood, there was a lot of people that got it, and I'm just in there thinking, well, what the hell's in the air that we're all getting it? There's a lot of things going on. But anyway, so this one is in Orange County. I didn't live in Newport Beach, so it would be unlikely that I know this doctor. But sometimes these doctors travel around and they have different offices and, different places they work. Now, I used to work in the medical field, but the thing that I did was dealing with patients' files and filing and shredding of paperwork and, that fun stuff. So I didn't for the most part, I didn't really deal with the doctors and nurses, but once in a while we had to go down and hang out with them for different, party, office events and things like that. Um, Now, let's see. We have 73 alleged victims of this doctor. Now, this doctor, since he's born in the Gen X era, is going to have a lot more victims than this because it's about his overall conduct and the mindset of how he thinks. And more than likely, if you go into their childhood, they had sexual abuse or was abused or some sort of neglect, some, son, and son, and son. Okay, and it was promoted, and because it was promoted, it would more than likely mean that they have well over this number of victims throughout their whole lifespan, right? Because 56 is not a young chicken. So finally, the boys are coming out, right? So it's kind of that thing. I was like, men have been assaulting everybody and promoting this conduct on anyone. It doesn't matter who you are, what gender, anything, okay? This has been a chronic issue. And there was another report that came out regarding how many rape babies now in this one area. And I was saying, I thought they said they were all saints of Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? That they're not all rapists, you know, because that number right there is telling about how massive that problem is, and it's every other person. It wasn't, oh, not everybody. No, it was everybody because they promoted it. They made laws to make it legal. They promoted different types of rape conduct. So if you know how a rapist is, it has nothing to do with sex, right? So their conduct of doing things like kidnapping, depantsing, frat housing, doing things like groping and touching, and all those things are all related to a rapist. Doing things against your will, against your consent is all rape. Having slaves is rape. Having, it's human trafficking. It's all those things, okay? So all those things came out of a rapist, and those are the ones that were in control of everything, so therefore they were all rapists. Okay. Anyway, so now it's just a time where it's like we're trying to undo the the rapist terrible things that they've done to us all, right? So they want to control your body. So that's a rapist. That's another thing. So that is a conduct of a rapist. And I was like, oh my God, we could go on this topic all day. Okay, so I'll get to the story here. I'm just giving the background. So when you read these stories, you're not like, oh my God, how did this happen? And why, this and that. I was like, it's totally explainable, but it's a long explanation to it. Okay. And then the guys were not really coming out because they were all like told, be a rapist. Okay, so and suck in your emotions there, dude. And then they would still be crappy to us. Just because they're male victims doesn't mean they have any empathy for women getting raped. Okay, I just want to point that out because that's another part of this. Okay, we got Manley, Stewart, and Finaldi. Okay, so those are the lawyers for I believe the Michael Jackson people. The what's his name? Because I remember the Finaldi. I'm getting good because I'm remembering him now. Yeah, that's Wade Robson or whatever. Wade's lawyers over here. So they went after, like, I think the Catholic Church. So they go after entities that, you know, do all that. And I think mainly for men, because yeah, I don't know, but anyway, so here a Newport Beach doctor specializing in infectious diseases arrested late last year after he was accused of abusing 9 patients, may have abused dozen more men who were in his care. Okay, so this is a gay monster. I'm like a gay monster case. So okay, Dr. Williams Thompson, yeah, oh my God. Okay, wait, a 56-year-old doctor who lived in Huntington Beach and had access to patients at, I guess it's Hoag Memorial Hospital Presbyterian for the last decade, while also operating a private practice in Newport Beach. Okay, so you had 2 different places. That's why I was saying these guys travel around a little bit, so it's kind of hard to know sometimes because these same doctors, I don't know. Okay, it says was charged in September of 2023 with more than a dozen felony counts, including sexual penetration and sexual battery by fraud and forcible oral copulation. We need more cases like this because we need to know what's right and wrong at the doctor's office. I will tell you, just even like me studying, like I knew a little bit because I'm working these, in that field for a little bit, but you don't know everything. Like you go in, you assume that everybody's doing everything proper and nobody's taping you, or they are taping you. They are taping it. There's an office that was taping, and I guess they were monitoring the room. I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. Mostly when you're sitting there doing, let's say you're doing a gyno exam, Do you guys, I mean, I don't know. I had a problem with that. Some people might not. They might feel safer with that, but that thing right there, because anybody could walk in and who's watching it? I don't know. There was an office that had these monitors, and I was kind of like, good thing and a bad thing. What do you guys think of that one? I don't know. I'm not really cool and down with it just because of what happened in other situations where there was no taping, but there was a doctor on their own trying to do stuff like that, and they were not supposed to do that. And I was not dressed for a procedure to do that. And I went in there for an injury to my arm, and they tried to go down my pants. And it's like, okay, on one case, like you're sitting there trying to prove your case and they tape it. Yeah, but a second part is who the hell's watching it and why are they, you know what I mean? There's a lot of issues in this field that are up for debate. Okay, so did you guys know that more than one doctor was supposed to be in the room when they do that type of procedure? I actually didn't know that. I didn't, I mean, I don't know. I just didn't even think twice about it. But apparently, you have to have another doctor in there, and you're supposed to get undressed and be ready for them before they come into the room to try to go down your pants. They're not supposed to try to go down your pants when you're in there for a whole different thing. And regardless, if you're not undressed, then the doctor's not supposed to try to go down your pants. Like, you're not undressed for that procedure, right? So that happened, and I was alone. So, and it was by a female. Okay, it actually was in this case. And I always thought, oh, I'll be safer with these female doctors. And then one day it happened. It happened literally in 20, it was in 2017 when I was talking about this topic quite a bit. I go, yeah, you know, in all my stuff, there's like really no female. Like there's a female that was like grinding up on me like one day, and some other one that was trying to get me involved in some other garbage. But beyond that, I hadn't had any that I could think of that did anything like that. And then I was like, it had to happen. It just had to happen because we've been raped by everybody. I was like, it just had to happen. Okay, so now at least 73 patients are accusing Thompson of abusing them too. Yeah, they need to know what the abuse is. And then people go, okay, they'll do one of two things. They'll either go, so what? I've always had that happen to me. That's normal. What's your problem? They'll do that. Those are the rapists. Okay, so then the other one, because they'll do that conduct to anybody, they have no problem with it, and they wouldn't even tell anybody that it happened. Okay, so then the other ones will sit there and where they just like, I don't know if it's a thing where like they I have to think on my own stuff, like where it's not a thing that I okayed the conduct necessarily. It's that it's more of out of a protection to not hurt, that it wasn't worse than another assault, but it's still bad. It's kind of like that. It's kind of compartmentalized like that, where it's like, not that I would promote somebody putting their hands all over somebody's knee. It was more like I had to examine it because I was like, oh my God, that's actually bad. And so then, yeah, how it was compartmentalized. It wasn't like, oh, I okay, man, go ahead and throw your hand all over my leg. You know, it's more like, if that's the worst they did, thank God. You know what I mean? It was sort of like this thing, how I was thinking about it. So it depends. It depends. It depends. But they may have had it done. They normalized it. And then the bad thing about the normalization is that, yeah, they may do it to others because it's just like, oh, what? Nothing bad. No big deal, right? So in the 730-page lawsuit, oh my God, I would not want to read that. I've read some long lawsuits and 730 pages. Okay, filed January 17th, the alleged victim said that the beginning in 2011 and continuing through 2023, Thompson used his authority as a doctor along with manipulative behavior to repeatedly subject them to unwanted sexual acts. And they know what they're doing. Mostly these socios, okay, so, and there's a lot in that field, holy crap. They know what they know what they're doing is wrong, okay? It's, these people know right from wrong. And mostly if you're like trying to do an act to do something sexual to somebody, you try to get them into a situation where they can do something bad to you, right? That happened to us a million times in a million different ways, not always just for rape, and just millions of different ways, okay? Those are all rapists because they're plotting like a Ted Bundy. No one's different than Ted Bundy in the brain when it's going on like that, because his plotting has to do with, he's thinking out a criminal act, and he's going like this. Okay, I'm gonna go get some chick today, and I'm gonna go in this car, and I'm gonna pretend like I'm injured, right? Or whatever he did, right? And he's like, I'm gonna go up to this girl, and I'm gonna do this thing, and I'm gonna get her into my car, and then I'm gonna do this criminal act. So that's the brain, that's the mindset. So they literally know what they're doing is wrong because they're plotting it out. It's just like when somebody puts something in your drink, they're plotting it out. So their brain, how is their brain different than Ted Bundy? It's not. It's actually exactly the same because they're plotting out, they're finding a victim and they're plotting out an act to get them to do something that they didn't want to do and without their consent and knowledge, right? That is the mindset. That's the exact mindset of a rapist. It's not even sexual. It's more the act of coercing somebody into a situation to do something that the perpetrator wants, okay? And it's basically a hate crime because, I mean, what the hell? Like, the whole thing about it. It has nothing to do with sex, though they may sexually, do something. It's more about the power and control of how they're doing it. It's like that action and going, doing the manipulation, and there's like a thrill to them for doing that. Like they're overpowering you in some way, and then they get you, right? This thing like that. Okay, so the alleged victim said Thompson's actions occurred at Hoag Hospital, at his private medical office, and at his home. Okay, so where he would instruct patients to visit him for invasive tests that they later found were unnecessary. Yeah, I had a really bad one actually a long time ago. Yes, and I reported the conduct of the two guys that were there, but then it catapulted into another area in that office, and like I couldn't get mad at the lady who did the procedure because she's not the one, there was a whole thing to it. And it just concluded that it was all bullshit. And I was like, oh my God, this whole time. And I go, I know why it was happening. Like there was a whole thing to it. And I was like, I don't want to get full details about that thing because honestly, it should have been a major lawsuit anyway. But and then there was additions to it too. That was just they're like, who told you that? I'm like, some lady on the phone. They're like, they're not supposed to do that. Do you know the name? I was like, yeah. Like I was like, they were saying all this other stuff, and it was atrocious. And that was at a different office. Okay, so the tests he performed on his patients served no legitimate medical purpose and were committed for no other reason than to satisfy Thompson's own prurient, like prurient sexual desires. Um, for the alleged victims wrote in the complaint. What the heck did he do? Thompson took advantage of his patients' ignorance of the proper administration of genital, anal, and rectal examinations so that he could force plaintiffs to be fondled, stroked, and penetrated for his sexual interests and sexual gratification. See, men don't even know it either. That's a thing. I go, all of us women, I told you, I go, there was these procedures that I was like, I didn't know like these things were supposed to happen. Like I said, there was supposed to be somebody else in the room when they did gyno exams, and that one place they didn't. And then one place was taping. I mean, I don't know, you guys. And they were trying to say some other stuff to get me in there multiple times. And come to find out, it was all bogus. And when I found that out, I was like, you just kind of lose faith in the medical field anyway. You think, I don't know, there was a couple of things I was thinking of it, like they were just trying to rip me off or something, because I had to pay out of pocket. So having them have me back, then I have to give them more money, right? But not even really going on, oh, they're sexually abusing me. That's like the addition to it. Anyways, Thompson could not immediately be reached for comment Thursday. An attorney representing Thomas in his criminal trial did not return a request for comment. Okay. I mean, it's okay. Morgan Stewart, partner of Manley Stewart Finaldi in Irvine, which represents 73 claimants, and said Thursday the numerous red flags in his behavior were ignored during the time that he worked as a specialist treating mainly gay men diagnosed with HIV and AIDS. But he said Thompson alleged abuses only stopped after he was arrested in September. So he's touching men with HIV and AIDS, and this case is so bad. The mindset of this guy. Okay, so that's the thing about the socios. Okay, so they're do harm to self and others. So They do something totally reckless. Now, I don't know if the doctor has AIDS too or something, because then maybe in that case he doesn't even care. But even still, he's doing something reckless and something harmful to himself and others. So both those things are in tie with the socio, and so that's why I said I go, it's all together. I literally just heard a case on TV yesterday on that damn channel again that I shouldn't be watching because there's nothing else on now because they changed my main channel to something else and they keep throwing crime stuff all over the place and it's so negative. Anyway, this guy was a total socio. They go like this. They said the classic thing that I always hear. They're like, he was diagnosed as a bipolar, and then the therapist said that he's just a bad dude. I'm like, that's not a thing. Okay. I don't even understand this. So they're not diagnosing, like, they can't see that he's a sociopath. Like, they can't see that. I don't understand that. And then they throw it off as bipolar. I go, why are you doing that? It's in tie with it. I can't tell you if there's a separate thing where people only have bipolar and it's just that the socio also has bipolar and it's just part of that thing. I can't tell you that. And neither can they probably because they keep missing it. So if you keep missing it and ignoring it, then how do we know that it's just not the whole thing? And then you're just overlooking it. Like, but anyway, there's no such thing as he's just a bad dude. It's like the dude is a straight up socio. Like he went and he murdered some children. And in fact, that was actually a case that it was actually the first one I heard that actually matched the case that I was looking at. They're not connected at all. But I was like, I don't even know of a kid case where some guy went and kidnapped a kid and then like stabbed him. Like typically, like a thing that they do is a different manner of killing. And I go, I don't know too many cases and I couldn't pull any out. And they actually pulled up that guy, which actually can help when I'm referencing the perpetrator, but he's actually not like the perpetrator that I was looking at on the other case because that perpetrator on the other case is more calculated and a little bit, I don't know if I don't want to say bold, but he's a little different in an aspect than this one, but there is something that you can pull from that case. So I was looking for cases like that were in a similar nature where somebody did that. The other case happened in like 1989 and it was so not that guy. If it was at that time, then I would look at him and that. But it's not just he's a bad dude. The dude is a socio and he got they let him get free for no freak reason and he ended up murdering some kids. Yeah, he's a pedo and he's a killer. Okay, so and a rapist. And so and the scary thing was on that case, they did point out something that I was like, yeah, that's actually it's so perfect. The girl that he tried to rape or raped or whatever, he grabbed her and he did something and she got away, right? And in the middle of this, thing that was going on, she ended up hitting him in the nose or something and then took off or whatever happened there. I don't know. Something happened there. So then when they went into court, when he was going through the court trial for both those cases, the murder cases and that one, hopefully I'm not getting it mixed up with another case. But okay, so then she mentions in the courtroom, she's like, I hope your nose is fine now. Like, I don't know. It's so funny actually. And all of a sudden he got mad. She didn't hit me in the nose, like telling his lawyer. I go, yeah, that's how these men act to me in private, right? And you know why he's acting like that? He's acting that way because it's not a manly thing to have a woman hit him. And so all of a sudden this whole rage comes up that some woman hit him. So you know what that was telling you? This is not good. His mother, something about his mother, and his mother was like totally like trying to avoid the other mom in this thing. And I go, his mother should have been busted, man, because there's a thing to that. Like, I don't know if it's a thing where she was beating him as a kid. Like, then he's starting to like, no woman is going to do that. It could be that dynamic. That's what I'm thinking. So I don't know what the deeper thing is to it because they don't really go there on these cases, which actually matter. So maybe it was something like that. So he had that issue as a kid, and then so he cannot deal with any woman telling him what to do. And so when he gets angry, he takes it all out on women. That's what he did. And on here, little kids, little girls. He's disgusting. But that's how he acted. And I go, yeah, I always have this action with these guys when I'm alone and I'm talking to them. That anger comes out. And a lot of us women have seen this. And it's coming from that thing right there. And that's what I'm talking about. That behavior right here. Okay, so all right, in the statement, um okay, all the claimants in the lawsuit were listed as John Joes, but several men identified themselves by name Thursday. Good for them. In a statement, one alleged victim, Johnny Chung, said he started seeing Thompson on the recommendation of his husband. Initially, Thompson was incredibly professional and courteous. But after 3 months, he began to act inappropriately with each visit. Chung described how Thompson would insist that Chung undergo prostate and other examinations of his body parts to be thorough. I felt each exam feeling more violated and taken advantage of. Chung's husband, Michael Glockner, also said Thursday that he was abused by Thompson. Glockner said he began seeing Thompson around 2016 when an illness confined him to a wheelchair. Glockner said he was recommended to Thompson because he was the only doctor in South Orange County who specialized in the care he needed. And during his time being treated by Thompson, Glockner said the doctor increasingly began to push the boundaries of their patient-caretaker relationship. He said Thompson subjected him to aggressive prostate exam in which the doctor would always want me to look at his private area to see how aroused he was. What the hell? Oh my God. Okay. Several victims who spoke Thursday who ranged in ages from 25 to 68 said they struggled to come forward because men are not typically seen as victims of sexual abuse. No, we do see you as victims. Men have said that you were not victim. Men themselves have said that you guys are not victims of any of that and you would want it and why would anybody complain about it? Yada, yada, yada. I'm over here actually talking about it and I'll be damned. And I've been talking about these gay monsters too because the reason why is because they've been protected because they're LGBTQ, right? And so because of that, they're like, don't tackle anybody in our community. So there's like actually several protections on this. The whole thing about men, and then also because LGBTQ, right? Like it should be okay for gay men to go rape everybody. And it's like, no, like literally no one deserves that, right? And so this is how many cases I just pulled up a couple from just in the past couple months, right? So this is another one. And I expect it to be the same, like a lot of them all around. It's just because it was okayed and because of the protections and this and that. If they rape women, they rape everybody. Okay, so let's just keep it like that. In Glockner's case, he said that he's taller than Thompson and believes his strength and size meant that he could defuse or put a stop to the Thompson's behavior towards him, but he said that the abuse continued regardless. Well, yeah, he's in a position of power. You're putting your trust in him because you think that he knows what he's doing and that, I don't know. But yeah, like I said, I had these incidents and it was just like, oh my God, did this really just happen to me? Like that was really what happened with the doctor thing. I mean, can I technically probably brawl down with that woman? Probably. Is that the proper way to handle it? No. And it probably would have turned around where they tried to say that I just am psychotic and just did that or something. If there's no cameras in there or anything. But yeah, okay. So when told Glockner that Thompson had also abused him during an appointment, Glockner said that he felt he needed to come forward to tell the story. And I thought I was the only one he was doing this to. Yeah, it's such a weird thing. I was saying in my cases, you have this weird thing where you're so self-focused and you think like you're the only victim in this whole thing. And it wasn't until years later when the perpetrator mentioned he was around some little kid. And I'm like, oh no. Like it was like the first time like I even like got out of my own head about it. Because you think you're the center of the universe, like when they're dealing with you, because that's how the perpetrator is like totally focused in on you. So you think like you're the only one. It's just crazy. I don't know. It's such a crazy thing. And then the minute that I figured that, I go, we gotta stop this. Like it was like this moment, and I was trying to find every which way that I can to get out of that. And actually, even before that, because I believe, no, I think it was right after that because I think yeah, it was right after that. Yeah, that was the exact order. I mess up my orders sometimes. I'm like, I had this boyfriend during this one period and it was actually later. I'm like, oh yeah, that's gonna help me out here. I constantly get the dates wrong. I don't even know when I dated somebody. Okay, so when Chung told Glockner he also abused him during an appointment, Glockner said that he felt he needed to come forward to tell a story. Okay. But when he did this to Johnny, that's when I knew there was more of us. And in a statement Thursday, officials at Hoag said they recognized the courage it takes for former patients to come forward. The officials said Thompson was an independent medical practitioner who was not employed by the hospital group, but they said that Thompson had clinical privileges at Hoag Hospital that were suspended following the filing of charges against him last year. Now, tell me, in this case, did anybody report to the medical board? Because I see that they're all suing everybody here, but I went to the medical board, and the medical board is the one that wanted to cover up the sexual assault from a doctor and tried to lie about it and say I disregarded something that they sent me, so that they just figured I ignored it and wanted to drop it. I go, who the hell would do that? And so then I go, send it to me again. And again, they didn't send it. So it's not me. It's not me at all. Because when I moved here, because we were fighting it from, I was fighting it from 2017. And then I had to go through the other lawsuit, and I was fighting, all these other people. And then when I got here, I started filing more complaints. So I file them when I can. But the problem with that is, you guys, when I file so much, they look at me like I'm just a complainer and nothing's really happening. And that's a problem. The problem is me actually calling it out when nobody else is doing it. And that's why there's so many complaints, because nobody gets busted, and it's just a continuation of some normality among all these doctors. And so one day, somebody from the board tells me, if you think anybody's going to get fired from any of this stuff, that's not going to happen. I was like, wow, okay. Yeah, they straight up said that stuff, you guys. That was through, let me make sure I have it correct. I think that was the medical group. Okay, so that was the medical group. And then so when I went to the medical board, they were the ones that covered up the sexual assault. But not only that, they gave my sexual assault information to a third-party doctor that had nothing to do with it. And I mean, it's a little humiliating, right? So I walk into my physical therapist, and they pull me aside. They're like, what happened? Because they thought it was there. And I go, what? What are you talking about? And they're like, did somebody touch you here? And I was like, no, nobody touched me here. And I go, this isn't the place. So I don't know why you got that information. So they basically told about my sexual assault to a third party. And that was the medical group that did it. And so then I went to the medical board, because you have to go above, and they want to cover it up. I'm like, wow, okay, so you're going to let this woman doctor go and molest every woman that comes in there, because she obviously has an interest in females. And I was just like, this is insane. But nobody cares. Nobody cares. I'm like, if you cared, why are you guys letting the medical board do this? I mean, I can only do so much, because when I call back in, I'm like, you need to send me the paperwork so we could get this going. And then they don't do anything. I mean, they got the information from the medical group and myself and whatever. So what did they do about it? Was there any arrests? I mean, they should arrest. It should be on them to go make those actions, right? To do those actions. Not me, the victim. And so, yeah, so that's what happened there. So I was like, I don't know if any of these men went and reported to medical groups or the medical board, but I already know. I could tell you right now, they cover up sexual assault. I know they do, because I've been in battle with them for years. And it's just like got to a point where you're just like, I called them multiple times. They were supposed to call me back on that other time, and then they never did. Like, they play this game. They want to burn the clock out so they don't get a lawsuit. It's so, the whole system is messed up. There should be no time limit, because they're doing that to ward off legal processes. Okay, so they know what they're doing. And it's infuriating. And not everybody can go obtain a lawyer just for a single case like this. As you see, this is a class action. So it has something to do with 73 people, where even originally it was like a dozen. So lawyers will take up those cases much quicker and easier than it is for me just walking in going, this doctor tried to go down my pants. I don't know if people understand that. So for them, it has more incentive for them to go after millions of dollars and more people and more power, that there's so many victims to back up those stories. But there's nothing to say that my story isn't the only one. Like, I'm the only one. There may be like a tank of them. And the thing that's sick about it, it was in a community where there's a lot of impoverished people that go to those doctors. There's people that are Hispanic that don't speak a lot of English, where they would be taking advantage of them from, right? So then you have this problem here where like they don't want to speak up. They may not speak up for a couple other reasons, but then you have that going on. And then so what? They deserve to be molested in the doctor's office? No. But they may not speak up until somebody else speaks up. So when I speak up, and if they knew about it, then they may actually step up after the fact. Not before it, though. And they may not look at it as a bad thing. Trust that. This is the weirdest thing because of what happened, right? So you go in there. I'm going to tell you what happened because it's the craziest thing that happened. But you may sit there and think to yourself, oh, it was just an accident. No, it was not an accident. So when I walked into there, I go, yeah, I injured my arm because I was, trying to reach for a pencil while I was doing some, outdoor sawing on some wood. I was doing all kinds of crazy stuff, woodworking and stuff. And I did something weird and I got a frozen shoulder, right? But I didn't know what it was yet. I was like, I can't lift my arm. It hurts so bad. This whole thing. So I go in there and they start asking me, do I have STDs? And I'm like, what? No, I'm not here for that. No, I'm not doing no STD test today. And then the next thing they go, oh, you need to do a gyno test. I'm like, no, I'm not here for that. No, thank you. So I said no, right? No to those two things. It was really bizarre that they were asking me to do that on my very first visit. Okay. Um, and I just kind of brushed it off. Like, I don't know what the hell they were asking me to do that for. So then I go in the room, and the next thing you know, this female doctor comes in and she's checking my arm, and then she has me lay down and she starts touching my stomach. And I'm like, oh, what? And then all of a sudden she starts taking her hand to go down my pants. I'm like, oh, hell no, did this just happen? Okay, that's not supposed to happen, guys. And I knew it. And so I go, no way. And then she backed up like she's some girl that got like offended, like your girlfriend or something. And I was like, yeah, that thing right there is like, no, I don't know why you just did that. And like she started to freak out. I mean, you would freak out. I guess she thought like I was all stupid and like I would just let her do that or something. I don't know, you guys. How many times has she done that? We don't know. And so then the next thing she goes, oh, you need to get your breast examined. And I'm like, how did I came in here for my arm? Like nobody's even caring about my arm, right? The whole time, nothing. And then she like ordered an x-ray for that and this other thing. So then, oh my God. So then the, I had to go back. And did I go back in there? I don't know if I went back in there or it was over the phone. I think I taped her. I don't know what happened. She starts yelling at me like she's my girlfriend. And I'm like, I'm really weirded out by this. I've never had a doctor start screaming at me. Like, this is weird. And I got to report this. Like, what the living hell? So I report it. And when I'm reporting it, the medical group guy that was taking the report was starting to laugh. He was laughing at the whole thing. And I go, why are you laughing? He's like, I'm not laughing. Yeah, doing this crap. And then he goes, okay, so what's the guy's name? I go, it's not a guy. Oh. Yeah, I go, see, you assumed it was a guy. I would assume it was a guy too, because, I mean, how many women do you get doing this? Because the chances are it's probably like one woman out of every 10 guys. Out of 9, you'd be like 9 guys that would do it, and then there's this one woman. And I was like, yeah, this is one woman. I go, in all the years, I haven't had a female do that. And I go, I had to get it. Yeah. So, then they yeah, they take the report and then give my information to somebody else, and then I went to the medical board and then they try to cover it up. That's exactly what happened. And I'm sitting here going, they're totally fine with this doctor doing this to everybody. Because it's not even just a me thing. Because I'm like, if she did it to me, like, and how are you going to know that that was wrong? Like, they would brush it off. You know what they're going to do. They're going to brush it off thinking, oh, it's just an accident that the doctor did that. They must have misunderstood something. Here's another problem with that right there. So the procedure is for that, like I said in the earlier portion, they have to have another doctor in the room, like some other person. It's not supposed to be just a single doctor doing that. And two, I need to be undressed before the doctor comes in for a procedure like that and not having the doctor undress me, okay? Or going down my pants, okay? That was another thing to it because I was like, what is the actual procedure for this? Because I actually don't know. I know there's something wrong with this, but I don't know what the exact procedure is in California and what they expect in the room for that thing. So when I was looking it up, I go, holy crap, there was so many wrongs in it. And so we know it's a sexual assault because it made you question, it does make you question, like, was it just an accident? No, it was not an accident. And so a lot of people have these things occur with them and they know it feels wrong, but they don't know the procedure. And when you find out that that's not how it was supposed to be anyway, it for sure, clear cut, was not an accident. Oh, anyways, on a last note here, yeah, somebody apparently like stole all my information and tried to like hook up a tablet with it, and government's just like, oh, wow. They don't even care. I'm sitting there going, I'm signing all this paperwork, and it's like, if you lie, you can get arrested and do all these things. I'm like, cool. So just let some person go and do some crap like that and not even care. So I was like, oh, basically, you can get away with this pretty easily. You just tell them this. They're like, oh, just disconnect. Like, it's no big thing. I'm like, you need to explain why and how somebody got all my information and was able to go on the government website and use it and then say they're me. I'm like, I've never had that. You know how when they get these hacks and stuff, what they can obtain or have obtained in the past, they've tried to obtain old bank accounts, right? So if I had a card that I used on a website, once in a while they'll get you lucky and get one of those cards, or they've gotten, I don't know, a one that was expired or something where it was connected to a card but then they couldn't use the card, or whatever the thing may be. But I've never had it where they had all the information that you could just to take my whole entire identity. I'm like, oh wow, that's cool. They could, that's quite scary because it meant that they had all, like, I can't even answer for what happened here, but that actually deserved to have an arrest if it's in America. If it's something that's happening outside the country, then you still got to question how they were able to just sign on to a website here in America and just sign up for something when their IP wouldn't be from America. I mean, I don't know. They couldn't do masking, but I don't know. I have questions about it. Like, I actually don't even know right now if it's somebody actually from America that did it. It could be. But as I said, the address wasn't popping up as a real address. And so I'm like, well, that could be a whole bunch of other things. So I mean, I don't know. I can't answer it. I can't answer how that happened, why it happened. Is it just a malicious conduct from some jerk? I just find it weird that the guy's running around with the name Axel, and I'm like, yeah, after I just posted this thing, and I'm like, yeah, is it just a coincidence? It could be just a coincidence. It could be a really bad coincidence. It could be just a really bad one of all people's names. But it showed a picture of the guy next to it. So it's not like I'm confused that that's not him, or I mean that's him or something. It's just the conduct in it is strange because they're like, "Oh, we're T-Mobile and we're like one of the greatest companies ever." Like it's like they're trying to sell me it, and I'm like, "I did not sign up for you, so you need to remove this thing." And I don't know why you're running around with some other person's rock star name, which at a company, like what the hell? I mean, how unprofessional is that? It's really weird. I was like, I don't even know how to answer what the hell happened there. It's psychotic. And it's still not resolved. They're just like, you could go and do this thing And if you want to wait, you could wait till the beginning of the month and try again. And I'm just like, but somebody did a crime here. Are we ignoring that somebody did a crime here? But they're not the company I was talking to today. I go, they're not the ones that actually handle that. So I was like, but somebody did a criminal conduct here, and the people that should be caring are not caring. They're just like, oh, just wait it out and do this thing. I'm like, is anybody gonna like investigate this? Like, and I'm all freaked out. I'm like, somebody has my identity now, and there's nothing I could do to stop that. That's the problem. I was like, there's nothing I can physically do to stop that right now, which means that in the future, there could be some other things. So that's why I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. And they're just like, they don't even care. They're just like, hmm.